Hello and welcome to a new episode of Breaking Boundaries with Naluka. Thank you for joining me. This video is going to be a little bit different. It's pretty much rough and ready, quick fire, and I'll be honest, I haven't put a lot of prep into it, and there's a deliberate reason for that. In this video, I want to answer some of the questions that you have submitted to me through Instagram or in real life, or questions that I've just been asked on my journey about being a digital nomad. And I really want to answer those questions here and give you that almost immediate answer, not a overly structured, prepared answer. I want to make sure that I give you an honest insight into what it's actually like as a digital nomad and answer the questions that you have. So I have almost about 8 or so questions here, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. We'll see how we go. And I'm going to read out the question and then I'm going to answer it. So, like I say, I've kind of compiled this list. I've had a little bit of a think, but not too much of a think, because I really want to just give you an authentic conversational answer to these questions. So, the first question I have is, what is your favorite thing about being a digital nomad? So I would say that my favorite thing about being a digital nomad is essentially the opportunity to be able to explore new cities and new countries without having to put your whole career on hold. I really think previously there was this option of you either stop and you go traveling and you kind of put your career on pause and come back to it, or you maybe move to another country with your job and do it that way. And actually, I feel like being a digital nomad allows you to explore while still keeping your career. And I think my favorite thing is that, but also being able to have that opportunity to see different countries, different cultures, and really immerse yourself. I think that's probably my favorite thing about being a digital nomad. If I'm allowed to have a second favorite thing, it has to be the people that you meet along the way. I never thought that I would meet so many interesting people, so many people from all walks of life, from all cultures, doing so many different things. And really the people make the journey as well. So that's got to be another favorite aspect of this lifestyle. Okay, so the second question, what is your least favorite thing about being a digital nomad? I would say that my least favorite thing about this lifestyle is always the leaving part. You go to a new country and you have this fantastic opportunity to immerse yourself, to meet new people, to create your community, to create that routine. And then you get to the end of your stay, and that period is always my least favorite part, saying goodbye to people, moving on. And yes, as a digital nomad, you're meeting other nomads and probably your paths may or may not one day cross again, but it's still really hard. And I think I felt that most when I left Valencia after the 3 months, because I just wasn't expecting to feel that way at all. I think after that, in the subsequent countries I've been in, I kind of always know at the back of my mind that there will be this goodbye moment. So it kind of allows you to prepare yourself more. But I think that is my least favorite aspect. Obviously, it's bittersweet because leaving means also a new beginning in another place, another experience. But that has to be something that is probably harder and not spoken about so much, I think, as a nomad. So third question here is, this lady says to me, I'm thinking of getting started, but where do I begin? So this is a great question. I remember a few years ago, seeing this lifestyle on social media and being like, that can't be real, like, I wish I could do that, but I don't think it's possible. But then I watched a couple of YouTube videos and realized that it was possible. And I would say, really think about what your skill set is in and what your career is in, and does it lend itself to being a digital nomad? Because I'll be honest, this lifestyle can't be for every single occupation out there. If you're a teacher, you can't be, well, maybe if you're an online tutor, that's different. But if you're a teacher in a school, it's not going to work. If you are, my brother works for the NHS, that being a nomad isn't going to work for him. So I'd say first thing to think about is, does your career lend itself to it? And I would say, do your research online, have a look at different resources. Obviously, this is one. And start thinking about, okay, where would you go first? What would you do? How would you do it? And really start thinking about it in a little bit more detail. But really, I would say just try it. Honestly, just try it. For me, when I started, I said to myself, I'm going to do 3 months in Valencia and then let's see. I didn't kind of say that I was going to do this for a year, less than a year, more than a year, that this was now going to be my thing. I was just like, I'm going to just try it and start and see. And I think that's probably my best advice for anyone thinking about doing it. Yes, do your research online, think about those things. Does your career lend itself to it? How would you be a digital nomad? Do you have a website online? How would you get your clients if that's it? Do you work for a company that allows you to work remotely? If not, can you apply to a company that allows you to work remotely from anywhere or from a certain region? There are so many options. But then once you've done that, and once you've done that analysis, just get started and try it for a little bit. It doesn't mean you're committing yourself to doing it forever. Just get started and be brave, have the courage. So this is another question that I had, which is, how do you sort out the visa situation? Now, this question is one where I think everyone watching this now is going to have their own specific situation. It all depends on, what country you're from, what passport you have. Are you doing it for yourself? Like, are you working for yourself and trying to do being a digital nomad? Are you doing it through your company? There are so many factors here that I can't give one answer to this situation, but I would say that most digital nomads do one of two things. They will either stay in a country for the period that you're allowed to stay until you need a visa, and then they will move on, or they will get what is known as a digital nomad visa, which basically is set up for people who are remote workers and expats. And that is something that post-COVID has come out in loads of countries: Lisbon, Spain, Croatia, I can think of many, many more. And that is specifically for nomads who want to stay for a longer period of time and really maybe get residency or rent a place for a bit longer. Then that is a fantastic option. But please, with this question, really depends on your own individual circumstances, how you're going about doing it. Like I said, if you're working for a company, maybe the company can support you in what you need to do, but really does vary on an individual by individual basis. Next question here. I'm worried I might try it, but then not enjoy it? Question mark. Yes, you may well try it and you may not enjoy it. That definitely is something that could happen for sure. I always think though, surely if you tried it and didn't enjoy it, at least you can say, well, I tried that thing. It wasn't for me, but I did it. And then you can continue with, what you were doing before or something else, knowing that at least you'd given it a shot. Versus always having that what if. I think there's that famous saying, we regret the things we didn't do rather than the things we did. So to that question, I would say, yes, you might try it and you might not enjoy it, but what have you really got to lose? At least you've tried it. At least you know for yourself if it was for you or not. And you can kind of mark that off and not live with the regret of never having tried something different. Next question here is, do you think you'll do this for a long time? Wonder if my parents submitted this one. I'm joking. But do I think I will do this for a long time? I think for me, probably this is a period of my life. Like I say, I kind of started off knowing that I was going to do 3 months in Valencia and then see what happened after that. But I feel like constantly moving is very exciting, but that novelty may well wear off, and I may get to a point where actually I just want to stay, for a longer period in one place, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe more, I don't know. Do I see myself aged 50 still being a digital nomad, moving country to country? Probably not, but never say never, and I don't want this to come back and bite me when I am that age. So I would say to that question, I'm open-minded. I may well at some point think I love the city so much I want to stay here longer, and then go from there, but very much open-minded to it. So this is a very good question and a tricky question. Do you think so much traveling can be justified given the current climate crisis? Now that's a very fair question and a fair challenge. And I would say with this, absolutely, if you are a nomad and like every 3-4 weeks you're like flying, obviously that's not great for the environment. I think there are things that you can do to minimize your carbon footprint. For example, staying in places for a longer period of time so you aren't flying so frequently, choosing flights that are the greener choice and they naturally emit lower carbon emissions. I would also say, is this so much digital nomad thing? Because I can think of people who have a base, but they fly a lot on holiday and they go a lot on holiday. And I would say that also probably isn't great. And then you think of business trips, etc., how much you're flying on business or traveling on business, because that can also influence the environment negatively. So I think with this one, it's a really good challenge. And I would say being everyone, nomad or not, has to be super conscious of their own carbon footprint and trying to make choices that are better for the environment and greener while still balancing your lifestyle. And I think that balance is there, but you do have to think about it carefully. So, is it hard to make new friends in the cities you're in? So I'm going to talk about this from a personal perspective, and then I will give some tips for this question. I think for me, when I was in Valencia, no, I met people in my first week there. There was a fantastic nomad community and it was really easy to make friends. Same for when I was in Chiang Mai, which is known to be a very, very popular remote working digital nomad place. However, when I was in Croatia, I did find it a bit trickier because it's not so much a hub for digital nomads. And absolutely, in my first few weeks there, I felt pretty lonely. I felt like I hadn't really met or clicked or bonded with people like I had done beforehand. So it can be hard. It really depends on the city you're going to. I would say the best thing to do is think about where you're going. Do you want to be a nomad in some isolated countryside in Italy? Maybe that's what you want to do, in which case fine, but for me that would be too isolated. You know, I already work for myself, I don't have a massive team around me, and so that would be really, really tricky. So I would say if having friends and having that strong community around you is really important, then choose cities that are popular with digital nomads, because in all those cities, and now I'm coming on to the kind of advice part, in all those cities, you will find digital nomad Facebook groups, digital nomad Telegram groups, meetup events. Do your research online. There is often a lot going on, and that is the best way of making friends in a new city. It's the way that I have always made friends in a new city. And remember that everyone else is in the same boat as you. Everyone else is also looking for new connections and meeting like-minded people. So often if you look for it, you will find it, but you do have to be proactive. If you're not proactive, it's not just going to come to you. And the second thing I'd say is, again, do your research and make sure you choose a city, not some isolated rural place in the middle of nowhere. Probably going to be much harder to make friends. Next question here. I'm worried about what my colleagues might think of my decision if I decide to do this, and maybe I won't be taken so seriously in future. Do you have any thoughts? So firstly, I would say, just a general piece of advice that I try to follow is follow what feels right for you, not what you think people are gonna think of you. Because if you start basing your life choices on what's gonna impress other people or what other people are gonna think of you by doing X or Y, and that's your primary factor, you may end up in a place where you're actually not satisfied or fulfilled with your life because you didn't listen to what was really there in your heart. That was one of the reasons I took this sabbatical and made this decision in the first place. So that's the first thing I'd say. Try not to think about, what your colleagues or what people on LinkedIn might think, because at the end of the day, they're not the ones living your life. You're the one living your life. And then in terms of the second part of this, I won't be taken so seriously in future. I think there is a little bit of a misconception sometimes, and I definitely feel this, that being a digital nomad is more travel than work. And actually, I would say that's completely not true. Maybe the perception is that, because obviously when I'm putting stuff out on social media, I'm not putting out me sat at a computer working, because it's not the most interesting footage or images to share. I'm putting out all the traveling I'm doing, but then that makes people think, they're just traveling, they're not actually focused on their career, they're not doing anything. But I would say that, some of the digital nomads I've met are the hardest working people. In Chiang Mai, people were working really late, people were working really hard, people had their own businesses, just fantastic. And so I would really rebel against the idea that it is, all traveling and just a little bit of work kind of sewn in. I would say, if anything, it's mainly work. And then you've got your weekends and maybe your evenings where you can kind of explore the city and get that traveling aspect in. So I wouldn't worry about not being taken seriously. At the end of the day, if you've got things to show in your career, if you've been building something, if you have been working on something and you're still developing your skill set in some way, you don't need to worry about that. And when you're ever speaking to an employer in future, then you can absolutely mention all the things that you've done and that how being a digital nomad has actually enriched your cultural capital and your ability to almost be in new situations, your ability to meet new people. I think there are so many skills that you gain from this lifestyle in itself that then can be used in a career. I hope that was helpful. Okay, and then the last question I have here is, how would you sum up being a digital nomad in 3 words? So this is quite a tricky question, but I would say I would sum it up as fulfilling, exciting, and eye-opening, mind-opening, if I'm allowed to say eye-opening / mind-opening. It really does just kind of open the possibilities of what there is in the world and what you can do. It is obviously very exciting as well. And it's fulfilling. If this is something that you're already thinking about, probably it's something that is going to feel fulfilling for you. And I think being able to also work in a way that feels very authentic is always going to be something that I think is going to fulfill you. And being able to combine career and lifestyle is fulfilling in itself. It's exciting and it is eye/mind opening. So those are the questions. If you like this video and you have more questions, I might actually do a second Ask Me Anything digital nomad video, but we will see. I hope that was helpful. I hope if you're thinking about embarking on this lifestyle, this has given you a little bit to think about, but do message me, comment if you have any questions, and don't forget to like and subscribe too. Thank you and see you here next time.